topic is how to build a unique and relevant extracurricular profile. And we have our Harmony Plus student, Gavin, here, who will be our student speaker. Yeah, so thank you so much, Gavin. I'll introduce you in just a moment. So really excited to have you here. And as I said before, this is our 299th Saturday webinar. So can you guys believe it? We've been consecutive for all of these weeks. Okay, so we can move on to the next slide. So a little bit about Harmony Plus. I think most of you guys know who we are, but just in case you're new. So we are an international learning ecosystem based in Silicon Valley, and we seek to upgrade education. So we have a hybrid learning model, and we have mostly been leveraging our online resources in the era of COVID, but previously we had many in-person resources as well. And we aim to equip students with the skills they need to adapt and excel in a highly competitive professional climate. And then we have a hybrid learning approach. So we combine education and service with our online and offline resources. We have many synchronous programs as well as asynchronous educational opportunities. And we combine theory and practice as we get guidance from top teachers, as well as endorsement from top universities so that we can build a competitive advantage and enjoy continuous improvement. And then our Harmony Plus students have been admitted to many top universities. As you can see here, hopefully we'll have many more in the future as well after this application season. And now let me introduce our student speaker, Gavin. So Gavin is a high school senior from Davis, California. So thank you so much for being here, Gavin. And he is currently suffering through college applications. So don't ask him about his admissions results yet because they're pending, right? But thank you so much for being here. I know it's been crazy recently with like all of your applications and finals. So hopefully you can have a good winter break, but I'm sure you'll still need to write a lot of college essays. Is that right?
Yeah, unfortunately, as I open up the regular decision essay Google Doc, there are still a lot of pages that I haven't gotten to. It's a work in progress, though. I hope I can finish it before Christmas, hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed, right? Finishing all that so you can have a good holiday season. And then Gavin is also a former intern at the UC Davis Micro Nano Innovations Lab. So I'm sure everyone is really eager to hear about that. Gavin is also very involved in Harmony Plus. So he's an EATIC member. That's our extracurricular activity, training and internship club. And he also took machine learning. And he's also the founder of Sac Valley Academy. So we'll also hear about that. So thank you so much for being here, Gavin.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, now next slide, just a little bit about myself. I think I'm a familiar face around here. A lot of you guys know me, but just in case you don't, I'm the chief of staff here at Harmony Plus, as well as a senior education consultant. So that's a little bit about me. But without further ado, I'm sure you guys want to hear from Gavin. So we have a very simple agenda today. So first, I'll do a Q&A with Gavin. I have some prepared questions. So then we'll hear from him, but I'm sure you guys will have tons of questions as well. So after I do my Q&A, then you guys will have your turn. So if you guys have questions, if you see the Q&A at the bottom, please write your questions in there, because then we can be a little more organized about the questions, and then we can press the buttons to answer them live. And it's a really nice way for doing Q&A. So if you could write your questions in there, that would be great. And I think we'll save most of them to the end, to that ending Q&A part, unless there's something very relevant to one of the Q&A questions earlier than that. So that's kind of how we'll do things today. So it can be very interactive. So without further ado, let's start my Q&A part with Gavin. Okay, so question one. Gavin, if you could maybe just kind of do a self-introduction. So tell us a bit about yourself, including your college, major, and career goals.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I've already been introduced by Kala, but my name is Gavin Huang. I'm currently a senior at Davis Senior High School in Davis, California, and I'm working on my, how many rounds has it been? Second, third, almost fourth round of college applications. I'm planning on majoring in business, and right now don't really have any set career goals and only a general direction of leadership.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. So I'm sure you've been super busy recently with all those applications. So good luck finishing all of those. Okay, so maybe we can take a look at the second question. So I think the first topic we can discuss is machine learning. So I know that you did the machine learning professor research program with Professor Jimmy from UC Berkeley. So why did you decide to participate in that?
Mhm. I decided to participate in the machine learning research program with Professor Jimmy because I felt it was a great opportunity to learn about a new intriguing topic from an outstanding teacher. And I also felt that I felt that it was necessary to broaden my experiences and try something new. Additionally, job prospects in the AI industry are really, really good right now, with AI experts and especially data scientists are in very high demand right now.
Sure. Yeah, I think machine learning is like the hottest subject to learn these days. So that definitely makes sense that you'd want to learn that. Okay, maybe we can take a look at the next question. So I'm sure that you learned a ton of interesting things in machine learning. So what was the most interesting thing that you learned in this program?
I think it was less of a single interesting thing and more of a moment that I remember vividly. It was the night right before our final presentation, and I had been staring at tiny little letters on my monitor, coding for multiple weeks in advance, but on this particular day, I had been doing it for hours. And with this program culminating all of the knowledge that I had been taught by Professor Jimmy over the course of those few weeks, I pressed the run button on my program and I got a red screen of death with errors, warnings, you name it. And my program probably had something wrong with it. But as I persevered through this mental roadblock, I was eventually able to get the program to work and present and even write a research paper on it.
Oh my gosh, so how did you get your program to work like after that? That must have been like a really long time or like how did you deal with that?
I used a similar strategy for my finals, which were last week, which was basically turn my blood into Red Bull and keep coding until it works. Might not be the best strategy, but I think the lesson to learn is just keep persevering, and eventually your hard work will pay off.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a good lesson. Okay, so now maybe we can switch gears to talking about your internship with the Emotional Awareness Institute. So you did that through our EATIC club. So what made you decide to do this internship?
Yeah, similar to the machine learning research program, I decided to do the Emotional Awareness Institute internship because I again wanted to learn something new. Kala initially came to me with her colleague asking me, "Oh, you have some experience in designing web pages. I saw your personal website. Would you like to do an internship involving web design?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't have a lot of experience with web design. I kind of like followed YouTube tutorials, but I think this might be my opportunity to formally learn how to design a website." The internship required me to revamp and improve the Emotional Awareness Institute's webpage with an added functionality of an e-commerce site, basically being able to sell things through their website. Again, I didn't really have a lot of experience in web development, so I learned everything on the go. And I think it was a really fun and active experience.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's the great thing about internships. I'm sure you can learn so much from them. Well, that's great. And then maybe for question 5, we can, just talk about like what was like a typical day at your internship or like a typical session. What kinds of things would you do?
Mhm. Due to my lack of knowledge in this area, usually on a typical day, I would go into the administrator account of the website, then experiment with everything in the back end, including some of the code, until I had a satisfactory result on the front. Sometimes this tinkering would take hours, sometimes I'd get it on the first try, but this experimentation led to constant improvement. And if I was to do another internship now, I would probably be able to finish it in maybe a few weeks, maybe even a few days. But all of the experimentation and tinkering can be applied to almost anything, most notably research, which, oh, maybe I shouldn't go that far yet. But my research internship with UC Davis, I also learned semi on the fly and experimenting with code this time and different types of cameras, I was also able to build a satisfactory result, but we'll probably talk about a bit later.
Okay, great. So it sounds like you did a lot of different things. And you didn't have to get coffee for people, right? I guess that was
Yeah, it was more send a Zoom link, go, oh, do you want to meet at this time? Yeah, maybe we'll meet at this time, and then wait for 5 minutes for them to join the Zoom room while I'm sitting there stressed with the website open, with the screen already shared. I'm like, when are they gonna come into my Zoom meeting? I'm starting to get nervous.
Okay, so that's like the 2021 version of getting coffee as an
Yeah.
intern. Okay, great. Okay, maybe we can go on to the next question.
My most valuable takeaway from this internship was probably the raw web development skill and communication. Because in addition to messing around with their website, I also kept in contact with the founder and board of directors who were wholly satisfied with my communication, keeping them constantly updated, setting schedules for meetings and due dates, just to make their lives easier. It was probably my first real experience formally working in a semi-professional environment, and I benefited a lot from that experience.
Sure. Well, it's great that you got to have that professional experience already in high school. I know a lot of students don't get that, so good to hear. Okay, and now a little bit about the Sac Valley Academy that you founded. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you guys are doing there?
Yeah. Actually, let's rewind a few years. At the start of high school, I moved to a promising and unfamiliar city in Davis, California. We have UC Davis like right around the corner, which is a relatively big UC. And once I got here, I immediately noticed the lack of a math Olympiad curriculum, a topic that I had started in 5th grade and I had been avid about for years. Reminiscing about the times when I was just a wee little 7th grader competing in math, trying to qualify for the state competition. I resolved to solidify the presence of competition math in my community. I started off by teaching at the local Chinese school, and then eventually branched off to form my own organization in Sac Valley Academy.
Okay, nice. So long time building up to that. Well, that's great that you're doing that. And then maybe we can go on to the next question. So then I know that you also met another student named Sarah through Harmony Plus, and she was originally also going to come to this webinar, but then was unable to. So maybe you can talk a little bit about how you guys work together to make this a success, especially because she was like on the other side of the country.
Yeah. So I started out Sac Valley Academy, I guess on my own with a little bit of help from my dad. We started with a single-digit class of students in a borrowed classroom at the local Chinese school. And after a few years, I had expanded my influence and network to encompass more than 300 students and parents. And after answering countless questions from them, I began developing organizational habits and fluent dialogue to help me resolve problems both in lessons and out of lessons. And this is where Sarah came in and helped me a lot. I was burned out from the AP season, and she was able to step in and help lecture in the Zoom call for kids. And I think that experience really helped her build her public speaking and confidence in addition to teaching skills.
Well, that's really great that you guys were able to work together. And it seems like you were really doing a lot of things, like not just teaching, but also lots of managing, communicating with your clients, I guess you can say. Yeah.
Yeah, I think all in all, the communication aspect was still the most valuable. Like keeping parents satisfied, giving them advice from my own personal experience, trying to put myself in their shoes and understand how stressed they are for their little children. Like, why aren't you going to Harvard yet? You're in 10th grade. Why aren't you applying to Stanford? Like, we get it, but everyone has to start off somewhere. And for me, that foundation was competition math, and I tried to spread that to other people.
Sure, that's great. And how old were those kids you were helping again? You were teaching?
I was teaching children. Actually, it was a very big range. I had children from kindergarten, I think, all the way to university students. Um, a university student from Berkeley that was starting in computer science actually wanted to listen to a few of my lectures for coding, just to get like a basic idea of how it would work. And then she would go to her actual class and start learning beyond what I know. But I think in general, most of the kids were from 4th to 8th grade.
Okay. So you said kindergarten as well.
Yeah, I had 2 kindergarten students. It was trying to balance the speed and difficulty of the program was a challenge. And I tried to remedy that by using my TAs to help the younger students catch up, whether that be through breakout rooms or answering questions with big, long 20-message email threads. Um, but eventually, I think I split my program into 2 with one advanced section and one beginner section. Just to make my life easier, I don't have to catch everyone up and make my life difficult.
Sure. Yeah, wow. Well, that's really impressive. I mean, you're only in high school, but it's like you're like a professional teacher, like having to make all of these decisions and to lesson plan from students who are in kindergarten all the way up to freshmen in college.
Mhm.
Wow. But so even teaching students as young as like 4th grade coding was working all right?
Coding, I tried my best to put everything in simple terms, like use everyday language or more casual language to talk with them. And I would constantly be providing examples of real life examples of what the code actually meant, just to help their understanding.
Okay. Sounds like a good class. So maybe I should be like that college student and watch your class. Probably would be easier for me to get started and understand as well. Well, that's really great. So thanks for sharing all of that, Gavin. So perhaps we can move on to question 9. Okay, so we talked about a bunch of extracurriculars that you participated in, and I know that you did a bunch more other than the ones that we just talked about as well. So out of all of these, which has been the most meaningful to you and why?
For me, the most meaningful extracurricular activity that I've participated in is likely my research internship with the UC Davis Micro Nano Innovations Lab. I talked about it a little bit earlier, but I can go into a little more detail now. I programmed an automated robotic system that could detect and identify microfluids, which is very small amounts of liquid. It's in the name. And in addition to that, I didn't program the move part. I programmed the camera part. I talked about messing around with cameras earlier. So I would experiment both with the code in the back end and different types of cameras. And honestly, that was one of my first uh, real life implementations of theories that I had learned in high school. And once again, I had to learn an entire programming language on the side. Because previously I had learned C from my dad, because that's his job. And then the AP Computer Science exam was in Java, had to learn that language too. And when I pulled up to the internship, the professor said, "Oh, yeah, are you comfortable coding in Python?" I'm like, "Okay, you're coding in Python." So I had to learn Python again. Fortunately, Python's a pretty beginner-friendly language, and it's also the language that I teach at Sac Valley Academy. Um, but this high intensity, learn on the fly, experiment, try new things, implement theories that I had learned only on a textbook was a really enlightening and I guess a really enlightening and unique experience for me.
Wow. So I kind of have a follow-up question with this. So it sounds like you were like learning like a lot of these skills on the job. So, how did you learn like these new programming languages and other technical skills that you needed? Was it more like trial and error on the job, or did you watch like YouTube tutorials, or like what did you do?
Fortunately, very fortunately, I have a talented dad who is very good at coding. I'm not going to say very good at teaching. I don't know about his teaching skills, but he's very good at coding. And I think my foundation came mostly from him and online resources. Fortunately for me, my I think my greatest skill is working very fast, and my greatest weakness is making too many mistakes because I work too fast. But working that fast with coding wasn't too much of a problem because like the red screen of death that I mentioned earlier with a bunch of errors and warnings, I can just correct my errors immediately and press the run button again. So I think that environment was very suitable for me.
Okay. Wow. So learning lots of different things, and shout out to your dad. That's great that he's able to teach you so much. Also, thanks for sharing all of that, Gavin. And then our last prepared question on here. So I guess just to kind of wrap up this section of our webinar. So what advice would you give to younger students who are hoping to build up their extracurricular profiles?
For me personally, from 5th grade onwards, I fell in love with the AMC/Math League/competition math curriculum. They gave me the most solid foundation I could ever ask for to help me flourish in both school math. I don't think I've ever gotten a B in math. That should be expected though. And problem solving, which I implemented in my science classes like AP Chemistry, AP Bio, AP Physics is this year. I'm suffering through that right now. Just had a final, went pretty good. And I took this a step further and started Sac Valley Academy in addition to lecturing under my dad's math program. But obviously not everyone has to go as far to establish their own organization. My biggest recommendation would be to find something that you're passionate about early, or find something that your children are passionate about. I was forced to go through that process in my junior year, and under the intense pressure from AP tests, was not the best experience trying to find something that I'm both interested in while undergoing that intense pressure. Biggest advice is to find something that you're happy doing and follow it. Tailor your classes around that future, find extracurriculars that branch off of that discipline. For example, my friend actually just got accepted into Rice last week for anthropology, which is the study of humans. And he is the regional coordinator for Red Cross, like the organization, through which he got to see how people united to respond to disasters, both on the local and world scale. And all in all, build a quality foundation early, take harder classes, and use online resources to prepare yourself for the infinite fun that is AP exams. And outside of school, you want to enroll in academic activities that you enjoy and match your interests, as well as sports and activities outside of academics.
Great, thanks for that very sound advice, Gavin, and examples from you as well as your classmate. Okay, so I think at this point, maybe we can go on to the next few slides. So I'll just maybe talk a little bit about Harmony Plus, some of the programs that we have to offer in case people want to, join some of our activities, especially the ones that are happening this winter. And some people asked about that, and then we'll do more Q&A with Gavin, but from the audience. Does that sound good? Okay, so a little bit about how Harmony Plus can help you. So in many different aspects, so with future planning, GPA and academic performance, standardized test planning. Of course, we're very heavy on extracurricular activities, research, and leadership. In our future planning, helping with college essays and having that strategy, recommendations. So many of our professors who teach the different programs will write students recommendation letters who performed really well in their courses, as well as advising students which teachers they should ask, and also helping with interview prep. So basically everything related to preparing for college as well as applying. Now a little bit about future planning. Okay, so we have quite a few different levels of service, all going with that moonship theme, as you can see. So we have US coaches, kind of like me, advising students. We also have quite a few education consultants, especially bilingual ones, to help with our bilingual families, and also peer mentors as well, who are a little closer in age to students who can help advise them. So now on the next slide, we can delve a little bit deeper into our services. So here are some of the different types of services that we offer. So we help with private middle school and high school applications, and actually even elementary school. Done a few of those as well. Always enjoy working with the little kids. Then for students in grades 8 to 11, we have academic and extracurricular enhancement. And then for students who are in grade 12, we have college application and essay services. And then for students who are currently in college, we can help with transfer applications, graduate school applications as well. And then we also have some hourly packages for one-on-one essay editing and interview training. So lots of different things depending on your needs. So then for students who are a bit younger, especially the ones we're kind of talking to today, okay, so how can you really prepare your application profile? So that's the service objective for grades 9 through 11. So on the next slide, we have a list, some things that we go over. So usually that's about 10 meetings a year. We focus on all different areas like major and career assessment, academic evaluation, helping students choose their courses, test prep advice, activity research and planning, also for the summer programs as well, preparing resumes, and also doing some college research as well. Because it's good to know, especially about those top universities, and then prepare accordingly when you're younger. And then on the next slide, so a little bit about doing applications. So when you're in your application year, what's the service goal? So we really want to help package and present students in the best light possible. So a little bit about these services. Okay, so we help with the whole process from the application profile strategy, choosing what you want to study, and developing a college list, through the whole essay editing process, then looking into different colleges, doing some research, and then the final college selection. So that's a bit about our application service. Then finally, we have essay editing and interview training, and also video supplement support. That's getting more and more common nowadays. So for essay editing, we go through the whole process from brainstorming, creating outlines, to editing a bunch of different drafts. Also interview training, proctored writing trainings, mock interviews, and video supplement support. So editing scripts as well as editing videos, because that can be a little tricky. And then for these, we like to make detailed plans like this just to keep everyone on schedule, as you can see in our example. Then we also have a bunch of winter programs. So I know that before this webinar, some people were wondering, hey, what can you do during winter? Well, we actually have a few great programs, including the machine learning program that Gavin did this past summer. We're also having a winter session. So here it is. Okay, so machine learning. So some of the key takeaways there. You can work with a UC Berkeley professor and really work with Python to do a project. Okay, and then we also have data strategy as well. So this one is really focusing on the practical applications of data science. And again, this is with another UC Berkeley professor, Professor Greg LeBlanc. So students have really enjoyed this program as well. We'll also be having UX design. So for students who are a little more artistically inclined, UX design is a great combination of kind of like art and tech. So just making the whole user experience really great. So another option. And then finally, we have presentation skills. So presentation skills isn't just, common presentations. This is more like, pitching if you have an idea. And actually, oh, I think the video just, I don't know what happened. Okay. Anyway, presentation skills. So actually our coach for this, Ethan Schur, is from Shark Tank. So he won Shark Tank, if you guys know that. So he's great at like pitching for businesses. So that's what this is about. Okay, and then we have EATIC. So Gavin did an internship through this. So we have a bunch of different like activity and internship opportunities. Students see those through email every month. They can check that out. We also have a bunch of workshops like creating a resume, writing a cover letter, how to create a personal website, and more. Students can kind of get together and collaborate through this, kind of like Gavin and Sarah. And they can also gain leadership positions through the club and also have a chance to receive the President's Volunteer Service Award. So Harmony Plus can certify volunteer hours for that as well. So that's a bit about our different programs. And then we do have a little video about data strategy here. So maybe we can take a look at that and then we'll do the Q&A with Gavin. So stay tuned. Okay, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the data strategy video. Then if you want to join the group chat about extracurricular activities, feel free to scan that right now. That is on WeChat. So feel free to take a moment. And then maybe we can go on to the next slide. There's also a general group if you want to hear, just kind of about what's going on in Harmony Plus, including all of our webinars. So that's another WeChat group. Feel free to scan that. So we'll give you a sec to do that as well. Okay, so I think we can move on. Okay, so now finally the Q&A part. So I see at this point we have one live question, so we can answer this one first. Okay, so I think this one is pretty good. So Gavin, how did you decide business and not computer science as your major, given that you have a lot of experience in coding?
For me, I didn't want to do computer science as my major because I could not stand staring at tiny little letters on my screen for hours at a time. And I chose business over computer science because my, I guess, life dream is to travel a lot and experience a lot of new things. The most vivid example of this experience is going to China and walking out the door, being able to see lamb skewers or Yangroshan right outside the door. And I felt that other countries would also be able to present me with interesting opportunities and experiences. And business is the best opportunity to A, make enough money to make a living, and B, travel the world.
Okay, good answer. That definitely makes sense. Okay, and then we have another question for you, Gavin. So what classes did you take during high school?
Yeah, for me, 10th grade, I didn't really take anything special because my school didn't let me take anything special. The highest level of class I could possibly take was honors classes. But in 11th grade, I took as many APs as I could, namely Calculus AB, Chemistry AP, Bio AP, Biology AP. I took Computer Science AP online because my school didn't offer it. I took band because band was a normal class, my only normal class, because I had been consistently doing band for the past few years, and I wanted to keep it consistent. And I think my last one was AP Art History, just to graduate. I think I needed the credit to graduate, and it was an AP, helped me raise my GPA. And the last one was AP US History. That class was not fun, but I got through it with an A. And then this year I'm torturing myself yet again and taking AP Government, AP Economics, AP English, AP Calculus BC, AP Physics, and again band. Oh yeah, and AP Statistics. My recommendation for classes is to get as far ahead into math as early as possible. Because if I could have taken AP Calculus BC in 10th grade, my life right now would be a lot easier, and I would have room for another AP even. So my GPA could be even closer to 5. Um, I have classmates that were just 1 year ahead of me in math, like they took Calculus AB in 10th grade rather than 11th for me. And their 11th and 12th grades were a lot more open, a lot more relaxed. They didn't have to stress as much. I was a little jealous, but there was nothing I could do about it at that point, except tell my sister, you better get ahead in math. You better start studying because you don't want to end up like me.
That's the hard part about being the oldest child, right? You're the guinea pig. So
Yeah.
but it's good that you're giving some good tips to your sister and the other students here as well. I noticed there are a lot of students who are in grades like 9, 10, and 11 here. So thank you for that, Gavin.
Mhm.
Okay, and then we have another question. So what business school are you aiming for, if you don't mind answering that?
Yeah, I don't really mind. So for college applications, you have I guess 3 types of decisions. One is ED, which you cannot change. If they accept you, you have to go no matter how much money they give you. There's EA, which is basically just an early normal decision. And then there's the regular decisions. So my binding decision was Columbia University, which is in New York. And for early action, EA, I applied for UChicago, Georgia Tech, and University of Michigan. And for regular decision, the list still being finalized, but I'm applying for Cornell, NYU, Carnegie Mellon, University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, University of Pennsylvania, the famous one that's really hard to get into. My friend just got rejected from there actually. USC, and University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Okay, so a lot of top schools, especially top business schools. So good luck, Gavin.
It's a work in progress.
A work in progress, sure. Well, fingers crossed for you. Okay, and then live questions can keep coming in, but we had a few from when people registered as well. So maybe we can ask a few of those. Does that sound all right? Okay, so I think a really good one was, how can a high school student reach out to a college professor for a research internship?
Yeah, for me, I had the fortunate experience of being neighbors with this UC Davis professor. He was literally a 2-minute walk from my house. And in addition to that, my parents were alumni of his. So it was really easy to get into contact with him. But obviously not everyone can be that fortunate. From my friends' experiences, I heard that usually they would use either their parents' network or their existing network, whether that be through upperclassmen, like previous seniors that had already graduated and were either attending UC Davis or some other school, or just contacting the professor through online or other opportunities that they probably weren't willing to tell me.
Sure. So it sounds like a lot of connections are really helpful for this.
Mhm.
But actually, maybe I'll share an example as well. I know that this is more your show, Gavin, but actually back, I think it was 2017, I did have a student cold email professors, and a Stanford professor actually responded to her and was like, your research project sounds really cool. You could come to my lab this summer and do it. So, once in a while, cold emailing can also work. But I think, as Gavin said, from his experience as well as his friends, it definitely if you have like networks or kind of like some ties with people, that's definitely the best way. But once in a while, if you have a really great research idea, if you're feeling brave, it doesn't hurt to reach out. The worst thing that could happen is they just wouldn't respond, right? But
Yeah.
in that girl's case, professor actually did, which was really amazing. So thanks for sharing that, Gavin. Okay, so someone was asking, how early should you start if you really want to go to like a top university? And what kinds of things should you do if you're starting so early?
For me personally, I say that too much. Basically, top universities will not look at anything before ninth grade. So normally people would say, oh yeah, you can only, you should start ramping it up in ninth grade. But I feel that establishing a solid foundation before high school is very important. For me, I started in fifth grade with competition math, and that basically carried me all the way through high school. And it helped link all of my extracurricular activities together with problem solving. Uh, and once you get into high school, you should still actively look for extracurricular activities because that is what's going to be going on to your activity list. Again, link that with whatever passion or interest you're aiming for or whatever major you're applying for college. And in the end, start as early as possible. Nothing really matters until ninth grade, but have a goal and a foundation before you start high school.
Sure, very sound advice. And then how did you find your interests, Gavin? How did you decide what you wanted to do?
Uh, I don't think I really found my own interest. If I could go back 4 years and relive high school, that would probably be the one thing I would change, other than trying a little harder in my classes to get a higher GPA. Probably finding my own interest because I think my path was, I'm not going to say cut out for me, but more presented in front of me. Like my dad said, you want to learn coding? And I'm like, maybe I'll learn coding. And then I went down the rabbit hole that is programming, and I was stuck in that rabbit hole, which was not a bad thing, but I was stuck in that rabbit hole for the rest of high school. It did lead me to all of my experiences with machine learning and the Emotional Awareness Institute. But my opportunities were presented through the skill set that I had learned early on. And I didn't really find my passion until much later, which like the middle of junior year, from which I transitioned to business. But if you're able to find something you're interested in early, preferably before ninth grade, then high school will be a lot more fun and a lot more interesting.
Sure. Well, thanks for sharing all of that. I guess things worked out pretty well though with
Yeah,
the rabbit hole, right?
I think I was fortunate enough to have everything line up. Um, like my passion for traveling coincided with me winning 2 entrepreneurship competitions, and that brought me out of the rabbit hole of programming and being a computer science major at UC Berkeley to business and applying for top business schools in the country.
Sure. I think it's important to have skills in both of those areas. That's how you can really do well because you can't really have one without the other at many companies.
Mhm.
So great. Okay, and then another question that was asked just because the holidays are coming up. So do you have any experiences with winter break activities from yourself or some of your friends? What are some
Yeah,
good things to do during winter break?
obviously winter break is a very short time, just a few weeks. But in previous years, pre-COVID years, yeah, it seems like an eternity ago. But before COVID, I would use the school break times to volunteer at my local basketball club. And I would use pre-existing good relationships, again, the importance of network, good relationships with my coaches, where I would step in as an assistant coach, where I would help lead drills, activities, and field trip organization through the clinic that they run over breaks. Um, we were actually right next to a trampoline park, so I would have to supervise and organize field trips to that trampoline park on Fridays. And I would also help the coaches run small errands. And dedicating this time was rewarded me with leadership experience and a newfound connection with my community, as well as volunteer hours.
Great, checking off all of the boxes, right?
Mhm.
Wonderful. Well, I think those were all of our questions. So at this point, Gavin, do you have any final words or advice, or do you feel like you've already said it all?
I think one last thing that I would like to um, impart is the art of problem solving books. I grew up reading them in parallel with my math textbooks. And even if your child isn't like a quote unquote math person, I think it's still important to learn these problem solving strategies because A, it will help them survive through school math, and it will also be beneficial to whatever field they apply that to later.
Okay. Yeah, that's good advice. I bet everyone's going to go home now and get that art of problem solving book.
I'm just advertising for them, not sponsored.
So this was an unpaid sponsorship
Yeah.
here. Great. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Gavin, for being here. And for this being your first time being a panelist for a webinar, you did really, really awesome. So thank you so much for coming here. It was really fun chatting with you today. And of course, thanks to our audience for being here. So again, feel free to join this WeChat group if you want to continue the discussion. Let's be lively and there, engaged. And yeah, everyone have a wonderful night and happy holidays as well. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.